Tomorrow is Juneteenth, marking the emancipation of all slaves in the United States.
Grace Bradley brings us to Northern Light Health to see how they're celebrating the holiday with their staff with the help of one of their own.
Everybody has a history.
The history of Juneteenth was celebrated on Tuesday. While the Emancipation Proclamation was signed in 1863, all slaves in the U.S. were not freed until June 19, 1865.
So my family has been celebrating Juneteenth for over 100 years. I have pictures over there as early as 1940s, 1935.
Northern Light Health's Vice President of Medical Education, Darmita Wilson, has been celebrating the holiday with her colleagues for the past 2 years.
They are my great-grandmother's recipes. My great-grandmother had verbal recipes only. She had not written anything down.
Juneteenth was nationally recognized in 2021, but Northern Light Health has been commemorating the holiday for years prior. CEO Tim Dentry emphasizes the importance of diversity, equality, and inclusion, which he says contributes to the hospital's culture of care.
We're not invisible to the fact that there are challenges out there, and some people have different levels and kinds of biases. So this makes our workforce, our family, we call it the Northern Light family, more tuned into that and more aware of what our colleagues might be going through.
History it's lessons learned. And so learning about history, learning about other people's cultures gives us a chance to empathize with people and also not repeat our mistakes.
So for me, Juneteenth is just a reminder of my family bond. It connects me to my grandma, my great-grandma, and her mother. So it's really exciting to be able to share that with everyone, to be open and honest about the conversations that we need to have about diversity and what it looks like, and share the things that are more common than diverse. And even in that diversity, finding some kind of common ground so we have some mutual understanding about what's going on in the world.
Grace Bradley, WABI TV5 News, Brewer.